everybody stand up. Okay, let us pray. Arsad, please lead us a prayer.
Dear God, please protect my family. Keep us strong, keep us safe, keep us healthy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, class. You can take your seat now. Who's absent today? Okay, none. Very good. Okay, class, please quiet. So let's have a warm-up activity. So here, I'm going to write a sentence and you're going to identify the subject and the object. So, here is the sentence. Okay, the sentence is, she wrote the report. So, where do you think is the subject and the object? Anyone? Anyone from the class? Okay, makatano? Okay, very good. The subject is she and the object is the report. Okay, so let's proceed to the other sentence. Let's proceed to the sentence 2. Okay, so the sentence here is, the cat chased the mouse. Okay, so where do you think is the subject and the object? Anyone? Okay, dying. Okay, very good. The subject is the cat and the object is the mouse. Very good. Okay, so any observation? Okay, so before I introduce you, our topic for today is, let me introduce you our objective for today. So our objective for today is, at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to differentiate between active and passive voice. The second one is, identify the subject and object and active and passive sentences. So the last one is, convert sentences from active to passive voice and vice versa. Our topic for today is about active voice and passive voice. So, when you hear active voice and passive voice, what comes on your mind? Do you have any idea about active voice and passive voice? Okay, none? Okay, so active voice is a grammatical structure where the subject of the sentence performs the action. So I have here an example of active voice for you to understand what is active voice. So the first example of active voice is, she painted a beautiful picture. So where do you think is the subject and the object? Okay, very good. The subject is she and the object is the beautiful picture. So why do you think is the object is the beautiful picture and the subject is she? Okay, very good. Because she is the subject who is performing the action of painting. And the object of the action is the beautiful picture. So let's proceed to the number 2 example. So the number 2 example is, he wrote an inspiring poem. So where do you think is the subject and the object? Okay, very good. He is the subject who is performing the action of writing. And the object of the action is the inspiring poem. So let's proceed to the last example. So the last example here is, the chef prepared a delicious meal. So where do you think is the subject and the object? Okay, very good, class. Our subject here is the chip and the object is the delicious meal, because again active voice is where the subject performs the action, and the chief is the subject who is performing the action of preparing. So do you understand? Okay, so I think you understand what is active voice. So let's proceed to the passive voice. So passive voice is grammatical structure where the subject of the sentence receives the action. So I have here an example of the passive voice for you to understand what is passive voice. The example here is a new product was launched. So where do you think is the subject? Okay, very good. A new product. A new product is the subject that is receiving the action of being launched. So, but there is no specific object in this passive construction. Let's proceed to the number 2 example. So the number 2 example here is the car was repaired by the mechanic. So where do you think, class, is the subject? Okay, very good. The car is the subject who is not performing the action repaired, but instead the car is the recipient of the action, and the focus is on the fact that it was repaired by the mechanic. Okay, so let's proceed to the number 3 example. So here the example is the letter was sent yesterday. So where do you think is the subject, class? Okay, very good. The subject here is the letter and is not actively sending itself, and the focus is on the fact that the letter was sent without specifying who sent it. So do you understand what is passive voice? So again, passive voice is grammatical structure where the subject of the sentence receives the action. So as you can see in our example here is, you can see that the subject receives the action. So class, and passive voice sentences, the subject is the receiver of the action and the focus is often on the action or the object being acted upon. And it is also used to create a more formal or objective tone in writing. So do you understand the difference about active voice and passive voice? So again, active voice is where the subject performs the action, and the passive voice is where the subject receives the action. So any question, clarification? Okay, none. So let's have a activity. Okay, so I'm going to group you into 2 groups, and each group will provide a set of sentences, some in active voice and some in passive voice. And you're going to identify the voice of each sentences and convert them to the opposite voice, and each group will present it in front. Do you understand the instruction, class? Okay, very good. So you can start now. I think everybody understand what is active voice and passive voice. But before that, let me ask you if you really understand our topic for today. So, who can sum up, anyone who can sum up our topic for today? Yes, Malik? Okay, very good. Okay, it's time for our quiz. So, get 1 for 3 to paper and answer this question. So, here you're going to identify whether it is active voice or the passive voice. But make it short. You can write only a AB for active voice and PB for the passive voice. So, if you have question, you can ask me. Okay, so finish or not finish? pass your paper in front, and for your assignment, research about the sentence structure and verb tenses to be discussed next meeting. So, alright class, that's all for today. Class dismissed.